Trying to, hi everybody, trying to shrink it again. There we go. Let's see. Just so that you understand what I'm going to talk about tonight. Hi, it's Sheri from Sheri's Dreamcatcher. Tonight is our Sip and Think chat. I actually like these chats because they're more kind of like informal, you know what I mean? Light my sage. Light my sage, but I also have a palo stick. I'm gonna light that too. This stick is supposed to give off sweetness, you know what I mean? And I got my candle. So everybody's doing okay? It's almost the end of the year, end of the cycle, before we start a new cycle. So, of course, I've got my Sip and Think mug. And tonight I'm wearing my tribe vibe to represent Narragansett. I got my Creative Native hoop earrings on today. And I also have on my purple shell or Joshua Carter made wampum necklace for tonight. So, yes. I wanted to, I know the topic tonight is about reflections of 2020, but here, right, we have a circle, which is your comfort zone. I can see if I can do this. I'm like teaching, right? And then you have another circle where the magic happens. But what about the space that's in between those two circles? Like, have we really thought about that space? Is that what we've been going through in 2020? Have we all been stuck in our comfort zone for all these years? Or is it that the pandemic had put us into a comfort zone, into a bubble? I mean, I have some reflections of what has happened this year. Obviously, it's not everything that has happened, but with Sip and Think, we get to sip and we get to think about it. If anybody joins me tonight, then they can obviously engage live with me, which would be great. But, you know, it's a lot going on, as usual. But I also was reflecting and looking at, you know, the circle of your comfort zone and was like, is that a caterpillar? And the space between your comfort zone and where the magic happens, is that the cocoon? And then the circle where the magic happens, is that when the butterfly pops open? So those are just little ways that I was kind of looking at it for a second. Another way I was looking at it was, you know, is that the universe, you know? And is that space between the two circles, is that the Milky Way? So, I'm not sure if transformation takes place between those two circles. And I also was looking at it and saying, your comfort zone circle is so small. Where the magic happens circle is so big. So if you stay in your comfort zone, that's how big your world is going to be. Whereas when you take a step out of your comfort zone, your world's going to start becoming a lot bigger. I try to analyze a lot of the data from history that I read, and I always try to look for the deeper meaning, but that's, you know, that's just me. So I was trying to figure out tonight how I was going to correlate your comfort zone to where the magic happens. And in all honesty, it's about change, because when we transform, we change. When we step out of our comfort zone, we begin to change. And then I was doing research on comfort zone itself. And so it says a lot of anxiety comes from leaving your comfort zone. People have a hard time with anxiety in their comfort zone. And that's something to think about, and that's something to question. So if they already have anxiety in their comfort zone, and anxiety happens when you step out of your comfort zone, how is that going to work? I know, boggled me too. Well, it also says that when leaving your comfort zone, you are in uncomfortable levels of uncertainty. So when we're comfortable with the known. When we're uncomfortable, it means we are moving into the unknown, if I said that correctly. So, have you ever heard the term fear of the unknown? Well, how would you know that phrase, fear of the unknown, unless you were afraid to take that step into the unknown? So going from your comfort zone to where the magic happens, that's where your fear of the unknown begins. I can get deeper into the whole comfort zone, but for tonight, I'm just trying to correlate what has happened and reflect on what has gone on this year. I will probably do another sip and think just on that comfort zone alone, because I find it very interesting as I was doing my research. So they say that the year 2020 is special because it's where you have 2020. Now, is that 2020 vision? What do we mean by 2020 vision? Where we can see things equally through our eyes? So keep that in mind as we start reflecting on some of the things that we're going to kind of just review, sip and think about. Okay? So one, in the beginning of 2020, not only, now here's the thing, I didn't even really want to get into it, but in the beginning of 2020, we almost faced World War III. And I didn't even want to talk about it, but I was like, that's so weird how we began the year almost in World War III. And then Australia faced one of its worst fire seasons in the history, beginning in 2020. It burned a record of 47 million acres, displaced thousands of people, and killed at least 34. Researchers said the fire also raised rare habitats that they had never seen before and killed more than 1 billion animals. Number 2, this is just my list, and I'm sure there's plenty more you can add. NBA legend Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California, along with his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, and 7 others on January 26. News of Bryant's death sent shockwaves across Los Angeles and around the world. The 41-year-old had spent his entire 20-year career with the Los Angeles Lakers, winning 5 NBA championships and widely regarded as one of the greatest players of all time. Sit and reflect a little bit about that moment in time and how it affected you and how it affected the families, how it affected the team, how it affected the NBA world. On the same day of Kobe Bryant's funeral service in Los Angeles, Harvey Weinstein was convicted of rape and sexual assault in New York. Accusations by dozens of women in 2017 destroyed his career and gave rise to the Me Too movement. The global movement to hold powerful men accountable for their sexual misconducts. On March 11th of this year, Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison, a sight the Hollywood mogul's multitude of accusers thought they would never see. Let's think about that. Something they thought they would never see. You know? 4, the global pandemic. Global pandemic. How has the global pandemic changed you? I am pretty certain that this pandemic has affected, every single one of us on this planet. Really sit and think and reflect on how this has changed you as a person, how it has opened your eyes to things that you may have been in denial of, things you didn't want to see, but you were forced to see, things you didn't want to accept, but you were forced to accept. See, the pandemic, in my eyes, pushed people out of their comfort zone, whether they wanted to get out of it or not. The whole world became on house arrest. You know, working in the health field, we still weren't allowed to go out to the grocery stores. We were lucky if we got to eat, you know? That's a whole nother world. Think about all the jobs lost, jobs that increased, jobs that were created, how we utilized the virtual world more. What does that mean for us moving forward? I mean, these are just things that I'm thinking of. You know, and what about all the people that were lost? How they were lost. I'm sure there's plenty of people that were lost in all kinds of ways, not just from the pandemic. Like, let's remember that. It made it harder for us to have closure and go to funerals. It made the holidays different. The normal traditions that we have had for years weren't the same. For some odd reason, during a global pandemic, everyone decided to buy all the toilet paper. Everyone became greedy. Nope, I have to stack up on toilet paper. I'm not going to give toilet paper to my neighbor. I don't want them to have any. I'm going to be greedy about the toilet paper. What happened to I ran out of sugar. Can I run to my neighbor's house and get a cup of sugar? What happened to the compassion? I felt as though with the pandemic, there were people who were scared. They were scared. They were in complete fight or flight mode. There were some people who were like, didn't even care. Didn't even care. Oh, I don't believe this thing's a joke. I don't believe in it. Won't happen to me. It's like, so there's your ignorance. You know what I mean? So basically, everyone, and I'm just using this as an example, right? Because we're in Sip and Think. Everyone who's ignorant to the fact that people are dying from something is stuck in their comfort zone. Moving on to May. George Floyd was killed on May 25th in Minneapolis by a Minneapolis police officer who used his knee to pin Floyd's neck to the ground. The killing of a black man at the hands of a white officer touched off protests against racism and police brutality across the United States and around the world. We have an runoff election coming up. Are people forgetting everything that has happened? This is why we're reflecting. I have had conversations with people regarding this incident. And this incident was the space between the comfort zone and where the magic happens. People finally said, I've had enough. I've had enough. It's gone on for too long, and shit needs to change. It needs to change. They didn't care how change was going to happen, but it was going to happen. And I can't tell you that everything is better now, because it's not. It's not. What we know is that there's police brutality. There is inequality. We've been saying it for years. But people are telling you they've had enough. And whatever system has been in place is not working. And they need to change it. And they need to fix it. That became more eye-opening with the riots. The NBA said, oh, no, I'm not playing. They stopped for a minute. You actually saw America come together with these protests. I thought that was beautiful. You saw all walks of life coming together. And it wasn't just in America. It also was happening in other countries who were coming together to show support, to say, listen, your system is wrong and you need to do something about it. These are your people. These are just things that I think about. Again, you may agree with me, you may not agree with me, but that's what Sip and Think is all about. Talking about things. I'm pretty sure I can continue to go on regarding the George Floyd incident and the protests. But one thing I would ask of you to do is think about and reflect on how these riots and protests and the George Floyd incident and the police brutality, how that has affected your life, your family, your community. Something has changed. I live in the state of Rhode Island. It's always been known as the state of Rhode Island and plantations. This year alone, they finally got rid of the plantations part. Murder hornets. The world's largest wasp has been spotted in Washington state, but don't panic. Efforts are underway to stop it from spreading. That's what we found out on May 29th, 2020. 4 days after the George Floyd incident. So we had a pandemic going on. We had protests going on. We had buildings burning going on. We had murder hornets flying around us. People we loved dying. All at the same time, people. I hope you remember this. In August, moving forward, August, desert locusts. They've been called the world's most devastating pest, and for good reason. So in 2020, locusts swarmed in large numbers in dozens of countries, including Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, Somalia, Eritrea, 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 India, Pakistan, Iran, Yemen, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. We had a presidential election in 2020. I have never been so oh my God, glued to the presidential election till this year. It was like come on, turn blue. That was me thinking that. However, more people came out and voted than ever before. They finally were like, our voice makes a difference. If we get out there and we vote. Not only did more people get out and vote, you saw states change colors that hadn't changed colors in years or ever. You know, that was a change. And it almost made people feel like my voice does make a difference. Because they saw the output or the outcome of what their effort was. The weather went wild. In 141 years of climate records, there have never been a hotter January than the one this year. New York City was reclassified as a humid subtropical climate zone, a designation shared by Florida. Nearly 3 billion animals were affected by the Australia's wildfire season, which ended in March with more than 46 million acres burned. There were a record-breaking 30 named storms in the Atlantic hurricane season, with meteorologists needing to resort to identifying storms with letters of the Greek alphabet after running out of prepared names. The storms were coming so much that they couldn't even keep up with. And only 3 states, Alaska, Hawaii, and North Dakota, weren't a part of a $1 billion weather disaster in 2020. Bethlehem Star, which was visible for the first time in over 800 years. These conjunctions don't always appear as close as they do this year. So it was a conjunction between 2 planets, Jupiter and Saturn. The great phenomena. The German astronomer Johannes Kepler suggested in 1614 that a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn occurring in 7 BC may be what the 3 wise men in the nativity story called the Star of Bethlehem. We, meaning whoever wrote this, which was NASA, call it the Great Conjunction, because to ancient skywalkers, these were the 2 slowest moving planets in the sky. Jupiter takes nearly 12 years to describe a full circle in the heavens. Spending a year visiting each zodiacal sign in the sky, like your Scorpio sign, your Sagittarius sign, your Leo sign, your Cancer sign, your Libra sign, your Aries sign, your Capricorn sign, your Virgo sign, your Gemini sign, your Taurus sign. Did I get them all? Pisces sign. While Saturn takes 29 and a half years to make one full trip around the sun. Because of their respective slow movement, a conjunction, or to the ancients, a celestial summit meeting was rather unusual. Such get-togethers happen in most cases about every 20 years on average. So on December 21st, 2020, 45 minutes after sunset, Jupiter and Saturn appeared just 1/10 of a degree apart, or about the thickness of a dime, held at arm's length. So according to NASA, during the event known as the Great Conjunction, the 2 planets and their moons were visible in the same field of view through binoculars or a telescope. So our comfort zone could be us looking up at where the magic happens in regards to this conjunction, which I actually got to see through binoculars, which was pretty awesome. So those were the things, or these topics, that I decided to reflect upon for tonight's discussion. And funny thing was, I then went on the internet and I researched some funny memes and stuff. And so I went on boardpanda.com and they did like this funny recap of 2020. And you'd have to go check it out and see the people's faces, but it's 2 guys talking to each other about 2020. So one comes back to Earth or gets in the car and he's like, yo, so how's 2020 been, man? And his friend driving's like trying to give him a recap of what happened in 2020. And he's like, Australia basically burned to the ground. Tens of millions of acres gone. 1 billion animals dead. Hundreds of species need emergency intervention. Now his friend, says, we should probably make a donut. He said, and then it goes back to the other friend, right? And he's like, then Trump starts some Iran general with a drone, almost led to World War III. Now Iran's asking Interpol to arrest the president. So, still might. His friend in the car is like, but nothing else bad has, and it goes ... His friend's like, some dude in China ate a bat. So now I don't have a job. Me and like 21 million other Americans. They helped us a little. But it's about to stop. Did you say a bat? Oh yeah, there's a plague. It's killed 500,000 people worldwide. 128,000 of those are in the U.S. The White House hasn't really done anything about it. Well, not until the economy collapsed. They bailed out a bunch of businesses, gave us 12 bills each so we could keep paying the businesses. So the plague is gone, his friend says. Well, I really should be wearing a mask. Anyhow, no, it's getting worse. But Trump is trying to slow down testing because it makes his numbers look bad. Well, at least tell me there's a quarantine. There was, but the GOP canceled that too. Opened the beaches just like in Jaws. It flattened the curve, though, vertically. Well, they should impeach Trump. Oh, they did. Abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. There was a quid pro quo thing with Ukraine. Didn't matter. He wasn't removed from office. Well, did anything else happen? I'm still in January, bud. Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi died in a helicopter crash. A plane crash in Tehran killed 176 people. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle renounced their royalty. So then in February, the UK left the EU. Iowa botches its primary caucus, but they did put Harvey Weinstein away for rape. But it took decades of accusations, so it's barely justice. Well, at least the justice system is getting better. Is it? White cop knelt on a black dude's neck for 9 minutes. On camera. The guy, George Floyd, died. Justice system tried to blame Floyd. Bunch of protests started against police brutality. The cops responded with rampant brutality. So riots started. But everyone is pretty sure white supremacists started them. Supremacists, you say? Oh yeah, they're everywhere. Trump likes retweeting their stuff. On accident, of course. But we all know he's a fascist. Surely there's an anti-fascism movement. Yep, and Trump wants them declared an enemy of the state, which probably doesn't mean anything. The riots stopped, though, mostly. Did they at least get some reforms? Like, did we get any reforms? Please let me know. Yeah, they took Aunt Jemima off the syrup bottle. Canceled the show Cops. Disney's rebranding Splash Mountain. And deleted an episode of The Golden Girls. What about the state of Rhode Island and Providence plantations? They're thinking about it. No one is holding their breath. Mississippi is taking the Confederate flag off their flag, but they're adding, "In God We Trust." We can deal with that later. We can deal with that later. Say anyhow. No police reforms? In fact, police budgets went up. They arrested a couple of them, but not enough. So you're saying it'll happen again? Only a matter of time. Biden is running against Trump. Probably going to pick a black woman for vice president. He's still an old white guy, though. Well, that's a lot of stuff. Surely there isn't no... Oh, murder hornets arrive in the PNW. Puerto Rico got hit with a bunch of earthquakes. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. Let's remember that. Locust swarms are devastating Africa and Asia. A Saharan dust storm is covering the southern U.S. A dam burst in Michigan, flooded a bunch of towns. There's an Ebola outbreak in Africa. Also, mosquitoes with West Nile in the southern Great Plains. I mean, you can't make this shit up. Scandinavian sensors detected a radiation leak in Russia. This is all 2020. Russia denies it. Also, Russia has been putting bounties on U.S. troops. Trump and Putin are still besties, though. Is there any good news? Not really. Well, wait. Oh, yeah. 2 dudes went to space. Lucky bastards. I thought that was cute. So that was boredpanda.com, and they did a recap on 2020, and I thought that was pretty funny because I'm sitting here trying to like reflect on what has happened this year, and I was like, so doing my research, I was like, oh my god, this is like hysterical. Like, can it get any worse? Like, anything and everything that was to happen happened in 2020. It all happened at the same time. So when we're looking at 2020 vision, everything was happening equally at the same time. All this shit, all year long. That's how I look at it, if I'm reflecting. But everybody is different. They have their own views, their own opinions about it. This is just kind of what was going through my head as I was reading the recaps and looking to see, you know, what's changed, you know. And has anything really changed? I mean, has it? Have we really stepped out of our comfort zone? You know, I was talking to someone today. We were talking about some of the sad things that had just recently happened. And I said, you know, I call it sacrifice. You have to lose something to gain something else. So I do hope that the rest of the world gains something magical and beautiful while we're changing, you know. I don't know if 2020 is going to be the year that we're still, it could take a couple years actually. Like, could we possibly have a couple of years of being stuck between our comfort zone and where the magic happens? Because things don't build overnight. Didn't they say Rome wasn't built overnight? They've said it multiple times. So, like, to really think about these things. Do you truly want to make a change? Do you truly want reform? Do you truly want history written in truth? Because we are paying for all the lies that have been set before us. We're living that karma right now. I mean, think about it. Think about it. You can be getting the karma of your ancestors. I mean, did you really think about it? And it was like, as all these crazy things started happening in 2020, everyone started like reverting back to their faith or the Bible or Noah's Ark, and they started being like, oh my God, it's happening, you know, and it was almost like a test of faith, test of who you are. Do I think, or do I feel that we're out of all of this? No, I don't believe we are. I believe we need to accept what we can't change and change what we can. But I am refusing to stay in my comfort zone. Because if I stay in my comfort zone, then all the things that I'm talking about and all the things that I want to change are not going to change. And then all you'll hear is complaining. Am I human? Yes, I'm human. I cry. My blood is blue until you open it up and it turns red. You know what I mean? We all bleed the same. Well, they've been saying that for years. How long does it take for people to actually really see that? You know? I was talking to another friend of mine who works in the health field, and, you know, she was just telling me how, you know, just tag them and tag them. At that point, when all that is happening, it's so hard for you to think with your emotions. You're kind of like in that production mode, like if you were on a production line, you know what I mean? And I was reflecting myself. I was reflecting the last couple of days and became very, very emotional. And I don't think it was just from losing a very good friend to losing some other acquaintances in such a short period of time. I feel as though this whole year I started, like, it was just finally coming out, because it felt like for me, I've just been in the production mode all year. Go, 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 go. And at what point, Sheri, do you let that all out and feel with your emotions? It was easier to block those emotions because I had a job to do. But honestly, I felt as though the whole world has been grieving. Whether they were crying, they were angry, they were in denial. Like, it was just, when you think about the emotions, people were really starting to figure out, like, am I going crazy? And you had to be like, it's okay to go crazy, man. It's all right. You're in isolation. To me, it's normal to talk to myself. Other people don't want people to know that they talk to themselves. Do I think I'm always just talking to myself? No. I also think that I'm talking to spirits too, because I believe in another universe and in another world, you know? I mean, I started researching on this UFO stuff. I'm like, all on it, you know, all interested in it. But I hope you guys liked tonight's reflections. I do have a quote for you. Nothing happens until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. Arthur Burt. So I'll repeat that. Nothing happens until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. Thank you for joining me tonight with my Sip and Think chat. I'll add some links below so that if you want to follow and join us for our next Sip and Chat, which is actually on January 13th. The topic is The Dreamer, right here live on Instagram at Sheri's Dreamcatcher. You can also join me on Tuesday, January 5th for my business journey journal if you're interested in that. And the topic on that is going to be Introduction to My Business Journey. It's going to go live at 8 p.m. So enjoy your evening, everybody, and think about stepping out of your comfort zone when you reflect.